We'll start off in Queensland, which I know is your home state. You're very passionate about Queensland. How do you okay, let's talk domestic politics. We'll start off in Queensland, which I know is your home state. You're very passionate about Queensland. How do you think Anastasia Palaszczuk is handling the coronavirus outbreak?
Well, not well, because I think she's delegated all authority to the Chief Health Officer, who is an unelected official. And one of the important things if you're in government is to look at proportionality, to say, well, if I do this, who will it affect? We've seen a slowdown in the economy. We've seen the Gold Coast tourist industry be destroyed, jobs lost, careers broken, and families broken up. But that doesn't come into any sort of equation. She just seems to accept that the health officer will rule the day on all issues. I don't think that's good for the families and the people of Queensland.
And it seems increasingly likely that she's not going to open up for Christmas, which would mean that, and we're in the heart of Surfers Paradise right here, this particular precinct, and of course Cairns, the Whitsundays, Coolangatta will just, many of them will go to the wall.
And that's why our party, United Australia Party, has got 60,000 members today. We're the largest political party in all of Australia because people are not happy. And the increasing membership, I've never seen anything like it. In 5 weeks since Craig Kelly became our leader, we now have 60,000 members. We dwarf the Liberal Party and the Labor Party who are losing members. And you'll be seeing that sort of response. People will have the opportunity to vote in the federal election next year, and I'm sure there'll be a big difference and a big switch in Australian politics.
So you believe people have had enough?
I think they have, and you only have to look at some of the websites and of the Labor members complaining about our party and what we're doing and how they're losing members to know it's a lot of trouble. I think Joel Fitzgibbon said the other day that all these votes are going to the United Australia Party, and of course they are, but much more than the picking up in the polls, because we have very limited coverage by newspapers, by media outlets, because they see us as contrary to the status quo.
Vaccination is a vexed issue, and every time a politician from one of the major political parties opens their mouth, they say get vaccinated. Now you're what you call pro-choice. What's the difference between pro-choice and sort of encouraging vaccine hesitancy?
Well, one is informed consent, right? And I think that everyone should support informed consent. First of all, dealing with vaccines generally, we've got a great system in Australia, have had for many years, which has been very reliable, where a vaccine normally gets approved within a 7 or 10 year period. So you've got 2-year, 3-year, 5-year safety data, and you can make judgments what the impact's going to be on the community. Here we've got a vaccine that doesn't have any 2-year, 3-year, 5-year safety data. No one knows what the outcome will be.
Clive, will you get the jab?
No.
You will not get the jab?
No.
There will be people who will not get the jab, who are watching this, and will say, well, Clive Palmer's not getting the jab, and there'll be others who say that that's dangerous. What do you say to those?
Well, I don't see how it's dangerous, because if I get the jab or I don't get the jab, I can still catch it, I can still pass it on. It makes no difference. I'd say that's my personal choice. Under the Commonwealth Government Privacy Act, medical records are supposed to be confidential, and no one's looked at that, and all these state governments are saying they're going to introduce legislation which says you've got to prove you've got the jab. Well, as soon as they do that, there'll be a High Court challenge.
And will you be that person putting the High Court challenge in?
I'll be certainly providing some support to it, yeah.
What do you say to those people who say, look, as a businessman, you should be promoting the encouragement of taking up the vaccination, because the pathway to freedom is completely contingent upon people being vaccinated. And we're actually seeing, Alan Joyce is saying, you won't be able to jump on a Qantas flight unless you're actually vaccinated. What do you say to that?
The truth is you can still catch COVID, you can still pass it on if you're vaccinated. So this all works on the assumption that if I'm vaccinated, I won't catch it, I won't pass it on. That's the reason why Palaszczuk, barrister in New South Wales, don't want to open up, because they know whether you're vaccinated or not, it doesn't matter. You can still catch it, you can still pass it on. Now, the assumption of why you get vaccinated is because it's the way to freedom, so things can open up, but it's just not true. They're not going to open up if they had 100% vaccination, because it doesn't stop you getting COVID. So I say you've got to take a caution with people's lives. Now, why the pollies are pushing it, While they want it, it's because they've been told by the modellers that if they don't, our hospital systems will be overrun. But in 2 years, has the Commonwealth started to build more hospitals? Has there been more medical facilities to look? No, there hasn't, right? So they're just living in fear.
And Clive, that's the health narrative. But what about the economic narrative? If you don't get vaccinated, or a lot of Australians don't get vaccinated, the Premiers are saying they won't actually launch the roadmap to get... Palaszczuk's saying she won't open Queensland unless people get up to 90%. I mean, they're not going to get there if people like you are not getting vaccinated.
We don't give in to tyranny, people. Just because she threatens me, just because she wants to destroy my family is not going to change me from common sense and logic. And I'm ready to support any Australian's right to choose what they want to do.
And there are a lot of Australians who are thinking that way, do you believe?
Well, 60,000 members in our party in 5 weeks tells you there's a concern. This is people that have taken the time to fill out a form, to volunteer to work and want action, and they'll get that action at the next federal election.
But you're saying half of them are hippies from Byron Bay.
We don't want to be... I'm not saying half of them, Peter. I'm saying we're a United Australia party, so we're happy to welcome all Australians.
You said you wouldn't get vaccinated. Anna, your kids, what would you recommend to them?
Well, it's up to them. It's freedom of choice, but I don't think my wife would. I don't think my kids would, but that's up to them. You know, except for my younger child, I suppose I would say that she shouldn't get vaccinated. She's only 7.
Clive, if your political party happened to hold some sort of balance of power scenario, which you have in the past, what type of reformist policies would you introduce based on those who support you being clearly pro-choice when it comes to vaccination?
Well, first of all, we would, the Prime Minister has said he doesn't believe in mandating vaccinations. It's all very well to say that, but then you see what the states are doing. We need federal legislation, which Craig Kelly has brought before Parliament already, to say that vaccine shouldn't be mandated in Australia. That's what we need the federal government to do straight away. So if people want to have a vaccine and they want that freedom of choice, that's up to them. But we shouldn't be mandating it. We need legislation that said that people can't be coerced into a medical treatment. If I say to you and you're a policeman serving for 25 years, you're going to lose your job and your family unless you vaccinate, I'm really coercing you. And we also need some protection for the media, so the government doesn't threaten the media with loss of advertising revenue if they run stories counter to what the government says about vaccinations. We had John Skerritt at the TGA contact radio stations telling him not to run our ads because the Commonwealth government didn't like it. Yet the High Court of Australia said we've got an implied right of political free speech. And here's the federal government telling us what I can and can't do and can and can't say. It goes back to the time when people used to stand up and clap for Comrade Stalin when he walked in. That's not the Australia we want.
Have you decided where your preferences will go? Will they go to the Coalition or to the Labor Party?
Our preferences will go to the party which most supports our view, and we'll actually do something about it.
Well, neither of them do at the moment.
That's right, but that's what it'll boil down to. I think you'll find when it's closer to the election, they'll start realising that they love the smell of ministerial leather more than anything else. They'll go into a frenzy like these politicians do. They'll all want their drivers, their Commonwealth cars.
Do you miss Parliament? Do you miss Parliament?
No, I find it a place where there was many intellectual pygmies. You know?
Intellectual pygmies?
Pygmy, yeah. Right. And that's what there is. But, I'm confident that we can deliver something. I'm devoting 18 days of my day, every day, to work for the United Australia Party. Craig Kelly's doing the same thing. So's our executive, so's our member, and we've got a high resolve not to let the people of Australia down.
Clive Palmer.